Robin's Nest, Season 2, Episode 1. It has been a while. I want to thank everybody for all of your support in Season 1 and let everybody know that we had over 1,200 downloads of this pod. And I am just incredibly grateful for everybody's interest in I guess what I have to say or the guests that I bring on. I'm really, really excited for Season 2. However, I do have a big announcement about Season 2 before we get started today, which is that I am going to be recording one podcast a month versus one podcast a week. The whole reason I started the podcast was for fun and as a hobby. And when I was doing the podcast weekly, it just was starting to feel a little bit like work. And so I felt like rather than give up the podcast completely, I would go to one time a month and see how that feels. So I will be recording one time a month. It will be broadcast each month, January, February, March, April, etc., not necessarily on the same week each month. If you have any ideas for who you'd like to hear on the pod or a topic you'd like me to cover, please email me at robinsnestpodcast123@gmail.com, or you can send me a direct message on Instagram or Facebook. And that's all I have to say. You can always watch this on YouTube as well by searching Robin's Nest Podcast on YouTube. And without further ado, I would like to introduce to you my very first guest, my bestie in the whole world of 35 years, met in 1986, Jill Hammer. Welcome.
Yay. Hi.
Welcome, Jill Ann. How are you?
I am good.
Thank
I
you
was a
for
little
coming.
nervous coming in, but I feel
Yes.
better now that
Oh,
we're
good.
here.
Yeah, once you get going, you even forget about it.
Yes,
Forget about it.
sure.
Anyway, thank you very much for being guest 1 on Season 2. How does it feel to finally be a guest on the pod?
Happy to be here, mostly because I know it makes you happy.
Thank you. That's sweet.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. I'm just see where this goes. This is very new for me and way outside my comfort zone. So
Yes.
here I am.
So why don't we tell the listeners a little bit of the history of our relationship? I mean, 35 years is a very long time to be friends.
Mhm.
So why don't we tell everyone, why don't you start about how we met and what your first impression was of me. I will share what my first impression is of you, and just how this little
how it evolved.
dyad came to be. Yes.
Oh, yes. Well, this story I remember. There may be other things you ask me that are just big old blanks in the brain at this point. This I, of course, remember because we talk about it all the time. We met at Temple. We were freshmen, not in the same major, but we had a biology class together. And my recollection of it is being in the class, that choosing that seat, new kid in college, new class, choosing that seat next to somebody that didn't look terrifying.
Oh, that's so nice of you. I think that might be the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Oh, I'm
That
sorry
I
if
didn't
that's
look
true.
terrified. Especially, what'd you say?
I said, I'm sorry if that's true. But
Well, I mean, certainly as it relates to the story, it's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
But I mean, you kind of walk in and you're like, sit down next to the person that doesn't scare you the most, kind of a thing.
I was approachable. Let's just say
you were approachable.
I like it.
In look. Yeah.
Fine.
So
Fine.
if I remember,
I'll take it.
Yes. If I remember correctly, there was a third person either sitting at our table or sitting right near us. And
he was in between us.
That was what I was thinking. But again, 35 years, blurred memory.
Right.
And all I remember is, well, I was just basically trying not to be seen, he kept raising his hand after everything the teacher said, and he started very politely with, "Excuse me,"
Yeah,
every time.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
this went on repeatedly throughout the class. And I remember in conversation, walking out of class, I guess, we began to refer to him as
Excuse
EM.
me. Yeah,
Excuse
that's
me.
right.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So I don't know if that was the first day we called him EM, but that was sort of this, here was this person who was a little annoying and something to chit chat about. And so we walked out of class together, and we were walking. Um, you'll have to refresh me. You're much more familiar with Temple these days than I was, but we were walking around the bell tower area,
Yeah.
and sat on the steps in front of the library, a little kind of, "Where are you from?" "Northeast Philly." "Me too." "What school?" "Northeast Washington," blah, blah, blah. And then you asked me how I get to school, how I got to Temple. And I said, "I take the bus and the subway. I took public transportation." And without skipping a beat, you said, "Oh my God, I drive to Temple every day. I drive right past your house. I'll pick you up. I'll pick you up tomorrow. How about I pick you up? I'll pick you up. It'll be fine. It'll be fine."
So nice of me. It was so generous.
It was, sure, generous. And all I could see was this crazy person in front of me. Why would she ask me to get in her? Why would she offer to pick me up? Why would I want to get in her car? I don't know her. And therein lies the personalities, I think, that have unfolded over 35 years.
And yet it works.
And yet it works. And eventually I did get in the car, and we did drive together.
I didn't hurt you in any way.
No, 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 no. It was the start of a beautiful relationship.
Yes, yes.
Did I miss anything?
No, I think that definitely summed it up. I do remember it the same way. I can picture it like it was yesterday, which is really weird. I can picture exactly where we were, like on the row of this biology lab thing, and both of us hated this class. You forgot that part.
Oh,
Neither of us
you
were
passed,
biology.
I did not.
Right, but neither of us were biology people, and it's just amazing, like how people find each other. And I just remember thinking, I'm a very what's the word? The kind of person who's always very efficient. I'm very efficient in my thinking. And I remember meeting you, and I can remember you saying that you take the bus and the L or whatever it is, the train and the bus. I don't know. And I'm like, you live off of Verie Road. Right. I drive right past your house to get to school. Like, how dumb is that I wouldn't just pick you up? And I don't remember, I have to say, I do not remember you having a big reaction. You probably didn't.
I think it was a big reaction. I'm not a big reaction kind of person.
Right,
so
right.
I was probably just quietly thinking, psycho.
Exactly, which you really aren't that far off. I was just a very likable psycho, that's all.
And that is true.
Yeah.
It didn't deter us from talking.
No.
Ongoing. So
no, right. And then we became very good friends.
Yeah.
So how would you describe how we are similar first? I would be interested to hear that. How do you think that we're similar? And then how do you think that we're different? Because I think our differences are more glaring than our similarities. Would you agree?
I mean, right. The similar is a challenging question, and not in a bad way. I just don't. I mean, not that I think about our similarities or our differences all that much, but it's a more challenging answer. I think currently, I would say we are, we're similar, mothers, wives, very devoted to our families, the dynamic of our families, that type of thing. We have, oh my God, we laugh. We, not even that we find all the same stuff funny. We have very different senses of humor in terms of movies and books and that kind of stuff, but holy hell, do we laugh.
I was going to say exactly the same.
We find ourselves together hysterical.
We are hilarious.
Well, and therein is probably another one of your topics, of course. But yes, we are cute and hilarious, and at least in our own worlds. And
Absolutely.
I think that, as much as anything else, is the biggest similarity, that
Mm-hmm.
we just, it supersedes everything else, because no matter what else is going on, we will find some way to laugh at ourselves or laugh at each other
Exactly. That's what I was going to
together.
say.
Yes.
Yes, I would say that although our personalities are so different and our senses of humor are so different, I think we have a very, very, very rich, deep appreciation for the other person's perspective.
Yes.
So, like when you get really angry, for example, and you get like,
Oh,
you know,
Robin
like
gets really excited.
yes, like I love Angry Jill, you know, because Angry Jill is just like dropping the F bomb every 2 seconds, calling people names, doesn't care how that comes across to
Nope.
anyone,
Don't
you
care.
know, and you're, you know, you're just so free with it in a way that I'm not. You know, that's not how I am. I don't curse like that. Like when I'm angry, I don't name call. But God, when I hear you say it, it's just so refreshing and hilarious
Funny.
because you do say it in a very, very funny, witty way. I don't know any other way
Yes.
to put
No,
it.
I get it. I get it. It's not just anger, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
anger mixed with the ridiculous, of course. But in those moments where that happens.
yeah, yes.
Yes,
I
yes,
think we have very, very, very similar values,
for sure.
you
See, this is
know.
why we're good, because you
Yeah,
can lead the conversation and I can just nod along. Yeah, that, what she said.
yeah.
I'm on that train.
No, that I'm just thinking of it as we're talking. Honestly, I haven't even thought about it, but I think that we have very similar values. I think that we have an enormous amount of fun together. And I think we both just really appreciate what the other brings to the table,
For sure.
which I guess we can talk about in terms of our differences, which I think are, like I said, far greater than our similarities. And I also think that because we're so different, that's also a big piece of why it works. I think that
Sure.
when you have two positives, you know, they kind of repel, or two negatives, they kind of
Right.
repel. But, you know, we're like yin and yang. And I think that a lot of my friendships are like that. I think that other friends that might be listening might think, you know, yeah, I'm not really like Robin either. But I think that my strengths complement your vulnerabilities, and your strengths definitely complement my vulnerabilities.
Sure.
And so together we're almost a person.
We are. I know. You're my other half.
Exactly. Exactly. So how would you say we're different?
We're different in multiple ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our approach to things is extremely different. And I always call it the leap and the look. You are
Mm-hmm.
the leap. You are just constantly leaping into whatever it is that you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I am much more reserved. I am the looker. I'm going to look for a little while before I even consider if I'm dipping my toe into whatever it is.
Yes.
Um,
I like to call that the I'm ready, fire, aim.
yeah.
And you're ready. Is everybody ready? Are we aiming? Are we all aiming in the right direction? Do we know what we're going to be shooting? Okay, everyone put down their guns and let's talk about it. Right?
It's
And
true.
right.
It's
And then
very
I'm
true.
always firing and then needing to rethink that I missed the target altogether.
Right, right, right. And my analogy, I always think you're leaping and I'm always hanging back
Right.
away.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said over the years, I think we've found a balance, and we've definitely found a balance that works for us, because while you're leaping, you're often reaching back and dragging me forward with you. And in other
Mm-hmm.
moments, I'm grabbing you and
Mm-hmm.
pulling you back from
Yes.
the leap, because
Yes.
I've looked and it's
It's
not
not
worth
looking good.
it to.
Settle
Simmer
down,
down,
come back.
simmer down now, simmer down. Yes,
Exactly.
uh
Yeah.
huh.
I
So
definitely agree. I mean, I think that yeah, for sure I am much more type A. I'm much more, you know, extroverted.
oh, for sure.
I have a lot more needs in terms of socialization and connection and all of that than you do. You're much more introverted.
Hmm.
Um and yeah, and I just think that somehow it really complements each other to the point, at least it complements each other enough that it has been, you know, without a doubt, the longest non-friendship, I mean, I'm sorry, the longest non-family relationship I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, me too, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We definitely, we also raised our kids together.
We
Our
did.
children were the same age,
Hmm.
pretty much born around the same time. Kevin, your oldest, and Arlie, my oldest, were born months apart.
Yep.
And Ryan is a year older than Zoe.
Not even a full year.
Oh, that's right, nine
Yeah, they're
months.
a year
Because
apart in school, but just 9 months. And Kevin and
exactly,
Arlie are 3 months apart.
right, right.
Yeah.
So, what was that like growing? Raising our kids together. How did that? How was
Oh my
that?
God. Where does one begin?
Mm,
Um, uh, it it was amazing, and truly, I wouldn't have wanted to do it with anyone else aside from my camera father of my babies. Uh,
hmm.
um, you and I, there were moments of, just joy, and moments that we both had in raising these kids that were just absolute terror and rock bottom at times. And uh, I can't imagine having gone through that with anybody else for so many reasons. You and I
That's
have,
right.
I don't know, I could not have survived motherhood without you. Your wisdom, your wit, your how many ledges you talked me off of over the years. The gift of just having a sounding board, many times even before I could approach Mike about a topic, just
Mhm.
having that safe someone to talk things through about. And your gift of wisdom, and just really understanding the various human psyche processes. I always said, the biggest gift is you being a psychotherapist and me being your bestie, because woo,
Think of the money you're
the
saving.
amount of therapy I've gotten, the amount of money I have saved has been astronomical. So,
Well, I feel absolutely exactly the same way. And again, I think because of our differences, it has really served us, because I can see things you can't.
for sure.
And you can absolutely see things that I can't, like what my
Mhm.
blind spots are. And you have never been afraid, or at least I've never experienced you as being afraid to tell me. Like when you see something like that I'm doing, there's a famous story that I actually talk about in my video, I believe it is, about Zoe when she was very young, and I used to put her hair in pigtails
I remember that.
all the time. And I would be really careful, and I'd put her hair in pigtails. And no matter how careful I was to make sure her pigtails were exactly even on her head, she would freak out, pull the ponytails out, have a complete meltdown, and say, put them back in, they're wrong, and start screaming at me. And I would say, thinking I was being a good mother, I would say,
Right.
I'm not going to put your ponytails back in until you can calm down and ask me kindly. Then I will try again, but not while you're screaming at me. And I thought that, on the surface, that seemed like a very reasonable,
Sure.
intervention, but it wasn't working. I mean,
Right.
that's, and I say that about parenting all the time to my clients. Like, it's not about right or wrong, good or bad. Is it working or
Right.
isn't it? If
Right.
it's not working, then we need to come up with some other plan. But if it is working, who am I to judge? But this was not working, even though,
Right.
on the surface, it sounded like it should. And we talked on the phone every single
Every
day,
day,
every
hours.
single day
This
for
is when we didn't
hours.
mind talking on the phone.
Yeah,
Now you
I
can't
know.
get us on the phone.
I know. But even to this day, you're the only person I really talk to on the phone at all.
Yeah,
Very, very few. And I think that is only because,
the
um,
precedent.
yeah, because of all those years of practice, I guess. But, I came to you and I was telling you one day, I don't know what to do. Every day was Groundhog Day with these ponytails. She would pull her ponytails out, she'd have a fit. Then I would tell her once she calms down, she could ask me to do it again. She would calm down, I would do it again. And then tomorrow was the same
Yeah.
exact scenario. And this went on and on and on. And I was at my wit's end, and I came to you and I said, I just don't know what to do. And you said, well, from my perspective, it's like she gets her cake and eat it too. And I said, what does that mean? What do you mean?
Right.
And you said, and it was like a piece I just couldn't see it because it was
Sure.
my own kid and I was blinded to it. And you said, so she basically gets to have her fit and also get her ponytails put back in as soon as she calms down. She gets to do both. And I might say something like, if you have a fit, when I take put your ponytails in, if you pull your ponytails out and you have a fit, that's okay. But you will not get your ponytails put back in again today. You get another chance tomorrow, but today you're done. And
Right.
it was a life-changing piece of advice. And it just shows it has nothing to do with being a parenting coach. It just has to do with deep listening and knowing yourself, knowing each other. You know, you were kind of an expert on Zoe and Arlie at that point, in the same way I was with Kevin and Ryan, because we were hearing the same things. We knew
Yeah.
what was going on.
We knew the stories and the right, the good and the bad and the ugly. Right.
Right. And I just think that it just cemented the attachment and the bond and the connection that we had. And, you know, and so now that your life is just taking off in all these beautiful directions, like very few people, other than perhaps Mike Hammer, would know and understand just how beautiful this is, that your life has
Yeah.
turned out so beautifully, that your kids are doing well. Because I know when it was really hard. It reminds me of Oprah Winfrey always used to say, I wasn't just poor, I was po. I couldn't afford the other OR. That's what she always says. And her point being that because she was so po, it has really shown the light on how grateful she is for the riches that
Sure.
she got. And of course, we know riches come in many, many ways. And you know, so your life going so well now, when for so many years, you know, you were struggling, I was struggling with Zoe, you were struggling with Kevin a lot.
Hmm.
And both of them are thriving in this world now.
Yep.
So
Thriving.
a lesson to the listeners, especially you young mothers out there: have faith.
Yeah.
It really does turn out okay.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I mean, honestly, I cannot count the number of times you said that to me over the years, that, just he will be fine. They will be fine. My own kids. And then I would repeat the same thing to you when you were having a meltdown about, your own issues.
Mhm.
And the truth is they are fine.
They
Um,
are fine. And
they are
even these
fine.
kids that are being raised in a pandemic and who are missing loads of school and social interaction, and parents are really, really, really struggling. I mean, I hear it all the
Oh,
time in my practice. And I just want everyone to know that even this too shall pass.
mhm.
This will be a blip on the screen. I like to think of, like, whenever I think of my pregnancy, I was not a happy pregnant woman. And when I was pregnant, I could not remember a time that I was not pregnant. When I was pregnant, I could not remember a time I was not pregnant. I couldn't remember what my body felt like. I couldn't remember when I could see my toes last. I mean,
Right.
but in reality, it was just 9 months at a time. But,
Yeah.
but at
Just
the
a
time,
phase, just a stage,
right,
just
it's
a.
just a stage. And so is this pandemic.
Mhm.
This is a stage. And I know that that's, well, it's not easy for me to say. I mean, my kids are being affected, your kids are being affected.
Sure.
um we're all feeling the consequences of it. But I guess in my 52 years of wisdom, I can look back on it and have enough experience, both with my friends and with my clients, to know that they will be okay. What they will not be okay with, which I have said in previous pods, is that they will not be okay with you melting down
Mhm.
because you think that somehow they're missing out,
Right.
or whatever you're melting down about. It's really important to just stay in the moment, stay in the here and now. So before we did get questions from
Okay.
listeners. And before I get to the questions, I did just want to say personally, and I will try my best to say this without crying,
Oh boy.
that good luck, right?
Uh-oh.
No, I mean, I cannot say enough about the role that you have played for me in my life. They really, the saying goes, friends are the family you get to choose for yourself. And
Yeah.
there is just no, um there, you are the living, breathing example of that for me. I mean, you are absolutely my family. I feel I would do anything for you,
I know.
kidney, etc. You know, and I just know that you will always be there no matter what happens ever between us. There is never going to be a break so bad that we wouldn't be able to work it out. And I feel your love. I know how much I know that you know how much I love you. And I just want to thank you for being this constant in my life, which was not always, smooth sailing. And because we've been friends for so long, because we met when we were in college, you really got to see a lot of my life early
A lot
on.
of the rough, yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of the rough road and rough
Right.
waters that you have dealt with over the years, for sure.
Right. And you too get to see, the other side of that
Yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah, I know, and it makes me so happy. And I feel the same way without
The
turning this into a love fest for the listeners, as it were. But
listeners could use a love fest,
yeah, it is
believe me.
right. 2021, the love fest. Um,
We
yeah,
need more love in this world.
I can't. There is nothing that I can imagine that would sever our
Mhm.
friendship. There just isn't anything that I could possibly think of that would ever do that. And yeah, you have been my own lifeline in so many ways. Different ways. We've
Mhm.
had different needs in our ultimate long-term goal here of this relationship, but it
Yeah.
is by far one of the absolute best relationships I
Oh,
have in my
thank
life.
you, Jill Ann. I
You are welcome.
appreciate it.
Welcome,
Okay,
Stella.
so let's go. Yes, we call each other Stella and Louise. People would like to know, people especially that follow us on Facebook, who see that we occasionally call ourselves Stella and Louise. For the podcast people, she's holding up her Louise mug.
I have a mug.
Um, People on YouTube are seeing it. But how did we start to call each other Stella and Louise?
Okay, well, I sort of think I remember, and it's also a little vague. So the backstory is, for many years, I sold jewelry through direct sales, home shows, and one of the companies I worked for was called Stella and Louise.
It was?
Oh my God, no,
What? I don't
no,
think so.
no, it wasn't. See, brain fart. Stella and Dot. We are
Yes, Stella
we
and
are Stella
Dot.
and Louise. The
Right.
company was called Stella and Dot.
Although that would have been cute. We could have called each other Stella and Dot.
Yeah,
But it was
no.
a take on the Thelma and
Yes,
Louise
it was a
thing.
mistaken take
Yeah.
on Thelma and Louise. So you texted me a question or a series of questions, and I probably gave you, as I would, a one-word or two-word answer.
Uh-huh.
Whatever you had asked me, I responded with Stella, meaning
That was
I
the
had
answer to the
something to
question.
do. I had
Right.
something to do with the jewelry business that whatever that might be. You misinterpreted it in your head, thought I was calling you Stella, and then I think, to misinterpret things one step further, you referred to us as Stella and Louise in error. It should have been Thelma and Louise, but you mixed up that movie title as
Yes.
well. And we, again, funny only in our own heads,
Yes.
only
Yes.
funny to us. We
Exactly. But
got
that's all that
to chuckle.
matters.
That's all that matters. And we got
Yeah.
such a laugh out of it. We
Yes.
began
And it
calling each
stuck.
other Stella and Louise, and
Yes.
here we are.
Yes, here we are.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the listeners' questions. So these are
Wow.
questions that came in through text or Instagram or whatever.
All right.
So we're just going to get right to it. What is your favorite memory of us together, and what has been the most challenging time for us as friends?
Oh my God. Pick a favorite memory. First of all, I've forgotten half of our lifetime at this point. Let's be real. Right?
Okay.
Half the memories are gone. I mean, I don't know. When I think about you, truly, I think about laughing. I mostly think about laughing and the ridiculousness of ourselves. And we do that everywhere. My 50th birthday trip, to go most recently, was off the charts, off the charts.
Mhm.
That was just such a phenomenal time and experience that, and a rare time of you and I just being off by ourselves together. We get a little bit more of that, in these more recent years, but I love our trips to Florida, our Christmases. Oh my gosh, going way back to the early
Mhm.
part of our years. The
Mhm.
funny, you know, Robin used to come to my house for Christmas. She used to show up Christmas Eve if we were doing Christmas Eve or Christmas morning, and she would come in her pajamas.
Mhm.
The Jew who loved Christmas.
I
She'd
did.
have her gifts, and we'd have gifts for her.
And I had a stocking.
My mother had ornaments on the tree for her, and a
Yeah.
stocking, and all of this stuff. And
Mhm.
our children, our weddings. What do you? I mean,
Yeah. Oh
how do
wow.
you?
Right.
How do you
Yeah.
just? I don't know. I can't. I can't.
Yes.
There's so many. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many for sure. The ones that jump out at me are probably the more recent ones, only because exactly what you said, memory is going.
Yeah.
Um, so what I most remember, well, actually, that's not true. I remember our cruise that we took when we were
Oh
21
my
years
God.
old.
21.
That was 21 years old, and
21.
that was a time.
That
That
was a
was,
time.
that was really, really,
Oh,
really fun.
that was a lot of fun. Yes.
Yeah. And then more recently, both of us turning 50 were my favorite memories. I loved being able to surprise you with taking you on a cruise. And I absolutely loved what you did for me, which is that Jill gave me one gift for every year of my life, so she would show up at unexpected times with little labels on gifts that would just say 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 50. And I got literally 50 gifts for my 50th birthday. And some of them were just so wildly creative and hilarious. Like one of my favorites, believe it or not, was Mike taking us to the airport or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mike, Mike picked you up, and
Mike
that was
is
your gift.
Jill's husband, and Mike had to take me to the airport or took both of us to the airport or something. I can't remember, but he showed up with a number on him. That was my because
Like
he was dropping me off.
36 or something, right?
Yes, it
Right.
said like gift number 36. It was just so fun,
Yeah.
so fun.
It
But
was so
there's
much fun to do too.
oh my god,
So
it
much
was.
fun to kind of come up with 50 gifts. Try it, people. It's not easy.
And
50
they were
gifts
all
in 4 months.
right, and they were all very personal gifts for me. I
Yeah.
mean, like they weren't like random, here is $10 to Starbucks. I mean,
Right.
they were all very, very specific of you knowing me, and that was the gift, and it was just enormous fun.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on, because we got to keep moving.
Oh,
We're halfway through this already. We're only halfway through our agenda. Okay, what is the most challenging time that we've had together? I have one thing that came to my mind when I saw the question. I only had one thing that came up.
one thing.
Mhm.
Um,
You may have many.
no, I mean, I don't. Again, nothing. Yeah, there have been times over the years where I feel like we've been on each other's nerves, or whatever it might be, but not a whole lot really sticks out. Um, we're very challenging in our own ways.
Well, do you want me to go first?
You
I'll
go.
say,
Yeah, you
okay,
go.
the only thing that jumped out at there was literally one thing only that jumped out in my mind. And it was actually when I can't remember if it was when we were both getting married or
Mm,
whether we were both having kids.
okay.
I think it was I was engaged and you were not. I was engaged to Larry. You were with Mike, but not yet engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And you just were not into my happiness.
No,
You were,
I'll cop to
it's,
this. I will
yes,
cop to this. Yes,
you
you are
were very, very unhappy because you wanted to move on with your life as well. And Mike was a little slower to propose. And and it was a short amount of time because he proposed pretty soon, pretty
Yeah.
quickly after, but it was like I want to say like a 5 or 6 month period maybe, where my life, I was very happy, and I couldn't even reach you. You weren't even returning my calls.
Oh, that's fine. I don't, yeah, that,
Yes.
so that part is vague, but probably because
Yes.
I'm not happy that I did that, as it were.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do actually remember, I
Really.
remember that period of time. And I
What was
think,
happening, Jill? What was going on?
talk to the
Tell
doctor,
the listeners.
tell the listeners. Truth, I think I was jealous in those moments.
Mhm.
I think, right, like you said, I think your life was moving in a direction I wanted mine to move, and mine wasn't quite
It wasn't as
there
quick.
at that point in time. And it
Mhm.
wasn't just you, although you were probably, because you were my safety net, you were getting the brunt of it. You know how, like we give our
Take it
families
out.
that
Yeah.
flack, you
Mhm.
know, you were probably getting the brunt of it. But there were, the truth is, there were probably, oh my gosh, the year we got married, I'll just preface this. You and I got married exactly a month apart after all
Mhm.
was said and done.
Right.
Um, and that year, 1997, I had 9 or 10 weddings that year.
Ah.
You got married, we got married, my brother got married, I had friends and family getting married. And I think that that was really like it in that moment, those months, those couple of months of just kind of disconnect, as it were, was that it was my own stuff of
Right.
not,
Right.
my life wasn't moving along quite as well as yours was. And,
Right.
a little bit of jealousy, but then there were other people. It was happening to others too. And so it was
Mhm.
happening, it
It
was
was
happening,
overwhelming. Yeah.
yeah, to multiple people. And it wasn't happening to me. And I think I just withdrew
From everybody. Yeah.
from everybody because
Yeah.
I just was, yeah,
Right. And I also
sadly not able
think,
to be happy in the moment.
well, I also think, and this is, and why I think it came to my mind when the
Mhm.
question came up about differences is because, I think a person that isn't me, who's got like spidey senses when
Mhm.
things aren't working,
Mm.
they might, be able to kind of be able to kind of brush that off.
Oh
But
yeah, you are.
I'm not able to do that. And
Yeah.
I was like, I remember so vividly that you were working full time. I think I was working full time. We both were working full time. And I was just like, hey, do you want to have breakfast on Saturday? No response. And by the way,
Mm.
this is before text. This was phone calls. This is
Voicemail. Answer.
voicemails. Yeah.
Leave a
No
message.
response, no response, no response. And then finally, I thought something terribly had gone wrong. I thought that I had done something horribly, horribly wrong and I had no idea what it was. And I did directly ask you, what have I done? And you did, to your credit, tell the truth. I mean, at that
Did I?
time, yes, you did. Yes, you did. And you said exactly
Very
what you just
impressed
said
with
now.
me.
Yes, you told the truth. And you also said that it wasn't just me and that you were completely withdrawing from everybody, and then you came around as soon as I brought it up and you were able to talk about it. Then of course, whenever you can talk about it,
Yeah, unload it, and right.
right? Like even I was talking to you on Saturday about something very personal to me, and nothing changed about the issue, but just
No,
saying it out loud just took all the anger away about
yeah,
it, all the
yeah. All
all the
the weight of it, as it were. Yeah,
so
for
yeah,
sure.
it's so important to just talk, and just say what's on your mind, because otherwise it just like eats at your soul and you just kind of become more and more and more withdrawn. And God knows I have been in that exact scenario, not with you, but with
Right.
others. So I know that feeling. Okay, moving on. Next question. How do you think your friendship has stood the test of time? Do you think it is your similarities or differences that help to the friendship grow? And has it changed over time? So answer that any way you'd like.
Um, well, I don't think there's any like true recipe per se, and I think the answer is yes to both our similarities and our differences. We talked about this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Play for us work to our benefit to make us stronger. Um, and I think for sure that it has changed. I mean, I know that I've changed over the
Mm-hmm.
years. I think you would fully agree, and you have too. And I don't think who we are inherently has changed, But I always think of you, because of your leaping personality, as I like to say, I always think of you as just having this incredible bravery, right? Like you're
Mm,
not afraid to jump into something challenging or new or different. You're excited by that. And I'm not. I don't do that. I think about things and I dwell on them to the point sometimes where I miss out on doing them because I've overthought them or talked myself out of them. And I think that part of what is part of how I have changed anyway over the years is, you know, I've become more willing to leap. I don't maybe take as big a step as you do, but
mhm,
I'm much more apt 35 years later to say yes to something, maybe not right away, but maybe on the second ask. you know,
yes,
I don't have to think things through quite as long.
yes.
But part of that is, because of encouragement, your encouragement, because of watching you take these leaps over the years and
Mhm,
seeing the results, good
mhm,
and bad, of course. And usually the
mhm,
good outweighs the bad and everything.
mhm.
So, in
Yes.
one way, I feel like I've become a braver person, especially
Mhm.
in the last couple of years, because as we
Definitely.
this in our 50s, it's sort
Yeah.
of
Who
like,
cares?
who cares?
We don't care.
Whatever. Over it.
Exactly.
Over it.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
So when I think about, our similarities and differences and how they've played out, when you say I've helped to make you braver, you've really helped me slow down
Yeah, for
so that
sure.
I can be more thoughtful about what I'm doing. And
Right.
I mean, and it shows up everywhere. I've had clients, and I know some of my clients who listen to this podcast, they've confronted me, what are you rushing for?
Right.
Like slow down. And I always say to them, you're right, because I know that that's an area of vulnerability for me. And you have, when I can take a moment to ask you, what do you think? And
Right.
you'll tell me the truth. I value that so much because I just feel like I'm so much better when I'm moving slower, and you have helped that tremendously. And
Yeah.
again, I just think that we value that in each other. But we
For
must
sure.
move on to the next question.
Oh,
And how do we like living so close to each other? Because we now live, we didn't always.
right.
So when we met, we did both live in Northeast Philadelphia, so we
We
were
did.
close to each
Yep.
other then.
Couple
And
miles down
then
the road.
and then I moved all over Bucks and
Oh my
Montgomery County
gosh. Yes.
in my
Yes.
20s. In my 20s, I may have moved 15 times, and I'm not exaggerating. I
Not
moved
exaggerating.
right?
No.
I
And I
moved,
lived with my parents until I moved in with Mike Hammer.
right. Right.
Right.
Not me.
Again, story of our lives. This is how
Right.
we are,
Right.
this is our personalities.
Yeah, I was just bouncing around from house to roommate to roommate.
Yeah.
And
Oh, and you've had some doozies.
yes, yes. But and then ultimately when we got married, well, I was actually living in Princeton and you
Yes.
were living in Ben Salem.
Mhm.
And then eventually I moved to Yardley and you stayed in Ben Salem.
Yes.
And then when Kevin was in fourth grade, third grade,
Brian was going into first. Kevin was going into third.
okay, I was
Yeah.
close.
Mhm.
Yes, then you moved to Yardley and you are now 3 minutes door to door
Yeah.
to
One
me.
mile. 1 mile down the road.
Yes.
1 mile down the road.
So how do you like that?
Oh, it's definitely my preference.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
it's definitely my preference. We get to, well, not that we don't see each other all that much. It's not like we see each other every week even per
Mhm.
se, but just having us right there. Want to go for a
Mhm.
walk? Yep, meet you at the canal. It's so much
Yeah.
easier than when I was in Ben Salem and you were in Princeton. That was a day trip. Like you
Yes.
had to plan to see each other. Now you're like, breakfast? I'm like, breakfast. And off we
Yes.
go to our favorite little hangout. So, yeah. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Love it. And when
Yes.
you're in Florida, like, I'm happy you're there and I'm good for a few days. And then I'm like, yeah, she's not around. I
Yeah.
feel it. I
Yeah,
feel
I
that you're
know.
not, you
I know.
know,
It's so true. I know.
yeah.
I get that feedback a lot. And
Yeah.
like for my other friends, I'm like, you don't even see me when I'm home. But it's like, yeah, but I could if I wanted to.
Right. I know where you are. I drive right by your
Exactly.
house and now I know it's
Exactly.
empty.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. All right. Two more quick questions that came in. Name one thing that the other person does not know about you. I can absolutely say nothing.
I was gonna I did read this one. I glanced at these questions in
Okay.
advance, literally glanced. I
Mm-hmm.
think I looked at them as I was getting in the shower to go to work. And I saw that one, and I don't know who sent it in. And I think it's a great question. But the truth of the matter is, if there was anything, do you think I would share that on a podcast? If I had kept something from you for 35 years, you think I'm going to bust that out on a podcast for the people?
Well, for my own interest now, is there anything you need to tell me offline?
No, but I just had this thought of that was a ballsy question. Whoever sent it in, kudos. Like, seriously, 35 years? You think there's something I'm going to bust out here? Good
Yes.
try, but no, I
Yeah.
don't think
Okay.
there's much of anything.
Uh,
We've been pretty much open books over the years, and
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
And if I don't tell you the truth, I eventually do. Like even if I'm holding something back, I'm
yeah.
it's only
Eventually,
temporary.
it comes out.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's only
yeah,
temporary till I'm working out.
for
Okay,
sure.
last question from the listeners, and then we're going to go on to our friendship tag.
Ooh.
Um, did you ever so for the listeners, Jill has a son who just recently got engaged,
Mhm.
and this listener wants to know if you ever imagined that your son would get engaged so young, because he is 21.
He is 21 and she is 22, and they are an absolute delight together.
Aren't they though?
They are. They're really. I'm just beyond the beyond of happy for
Mm-hmm.
them and all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I, it's not a question I ever really. I never thought about what age my kids might meet their person and make a commitment to them. When he told us that he was going to get engaged, Mike and I definitely had uh, you know not the best reaction. And we've talked about this with Kevin because he was looking for a much bigger thing. And first of all, know your parents. We are not the big reaction people anyway, but we clearly disappointed him in our reaction and ultimately talked about it. And part of that was, the truth was when he told us, the first thought was, oh my God, you're too young. Like, how can you possibly know your mind at this point? You're 21. How can you know? How can you know? And, he talked to us very honestly about his thoughts and feelings, which I'm so grateful that he
Mm-hmm.
did. And it was all in our own heads. There was nothing, I mean, I say they had a plan. They were talking. We weren't
Mm-hmm.
privy to the conversations, nor should we have been, but
Mm-hmm.
they were talking and they were very honest with each other about what they wanted and their love for each other. And the truth of the matter is, when I really got clear and thought about it, you know, Jill back, if you had asked 12-year-old Jill what 20-year-old or 22-year-old Jill would have been doing, she would have said married with babies.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
And that's
12-year-old Jill wanted.
what our the other generation did. How old were your parents when they got married?
20s, middle 20s,
Okay. My
middle
parents,
20s.
not that they're, the perfect example because they got divorced, but
Yeah.
they were 21 and 19, my
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah, your
And
parents were younger than mine. Mine were in their middle 20s. And yeah, I mean, and the truth of the matter is, who am I to tell them that they're too young to love each other and
Mhm.
commit to each other?
Right.
They're happy. They're good together. They treat each other well. They
Mhm.
love each other. And just because they're engaged doesn't mean they're rushing into a ceremony either.
Mhm.
They both have plans and they've
Yeah.
thought their plans out. And, you
Yeah.
know,
They are absolutely adorable together. I think they have as great a chance of making it as any other couple that get married
Sure.
and who love each other. I think that they are just so well matched, and I'm very, very happy for them. So if you're listening, Kevin and Kelsey, congratulations.
Yay!
We're very happy for you.
And we
Okay,
can't wait to dance at your wedding.
yes, I can't wait. Do I get invited? Depends on how big this wedding is.
How big it is. You get invited.
Okay,
Sister,
great.
sister of my heart, not me.
Okay.
Please.
I wasn't sure if it was just going to be, small. But anyway, okay.
Oh, no.
Moving on. All right.
Not in
Moving
my
on.
world.
Moving on to the friendship tag. So I'm just going to quickly ask some questions. We're both going to answer them.
Okay.
What is my dream job?
Am I answering for you or for me?
You are answering for me. I'm answering for you.
Oh, this will be interesting. I'm curious what you say. Your dream job is anything that gives you excitement, has you talking to people, listening to their experiences, and I don't know. I think of the things that you've done over the years, where you want to know what people are thinking and doing. So I think it's anything that, has you involved in that.
Yeah. I would say something like, some kind of television show where I could be sharing my opinions.
Oh,
Like sort of like The View or something like that, but someplace that I could really not be restricted in sharing my opinions, having a real megaphone to be able to talk and listen and be in conversation with people on really interesting and important topics in the world. And the other
you
dream
ought to have
job,
a podcast. That ought to.
I know, I really should. I know. And my other dream job if I had any talent, would have been that I would have loved to have been an actress, singer, performer. I definitely would have loved to do stuff like that. So I get to live a little bit through Zoe, who does that stuff. My guess as to what your dream job would be not to work at all. My guess would be that, but see, I wouldn't be happy with that. But I wouldn't.
I don't want to sit home all day.
No, but not have to have a job, but to be able to do what, volunteer, work in a homeless shelter, do things that are very giving in the community, not have to worry about money, and just be able to make other people's lives better. That's what I would guess your dream job would be.
And if it affords the opportunity to go to the beach on the whim, then all the better.
Yes, yes. Describe each other in one word.
Again, I'm doing you, you're doing me.
That's what a friendship tag is. I should have told you the rules of engagement before the pod.
Rosebud, thorn.
Yes.
Okay. Brave is what came to my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple words, and I have.
Yeah, I have. Like, you gave me one. I don't
know. That's very nice. Thank you. I like it. The two that jump up that are fighting for first position, so I have to say it's a tie, is kind and hilarious. Those are the two words that those are the two things that would come to my mind as soon as I think of you. What's something that annoys you about the other? I'll let you go first. Don't hold back on my account.
The other.
Yes. I have mine.
Okay, so the first thing that came to mind, and I say it.
I can always edit this out if I don't like it.
I say it as I laugh because we just went out to dinner together the other night, and annoyance is even such a strong word. It's it's not even the iced tea with the lemon or the water with the lemon. I'm used to that at this point.
And extra ice.
Right. It's the I will I'll have the shrimp, the appetizer. Okay, do you want me to take the order now? Oh, you ready to take the order? Like, you're so You come in, you sit down, you're like ready for the food to be on the
Oh,
table.
yes,
And there's a
yes,
process, right? There's a
yes,
process. They have to come
yes.
over,
That
they have to
totally makes
greet you,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
And you're like, but
I'm bulldozing through the
right, right.
process like I
I
bulldoze.
looked at the menu 7 hours ago and I decided what I want. Could you just bring it? You know?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I agree. I do all of those things.
Oh my gosh, it's funny.
Yes, I could totally see that. And I'm sure other people that have gone out to dinner with me that is would
Right,
agree with
right.
you.
Because I think it is like
Mhm.
when I go out to dinner, I want to sit. I want to.
But
It's an experience, and you're
this
like,
is what we're
wait,
talking about.
what?
But this is the whole
Yes,
personality difference.
yes,
You're slower than me. I'm
yes.
here to eat.
Where is the
I
food?
am here to eat. I've been thinking about this meal all day. I have already decided what I want. I have driven to the restaurant. I have now sat down at the table. Why is the food not waiting for me at the
Oh,
table?
I get it. And I'm like, oh, let's look around. Should we order some wine? Let's have a glass of wine.
I
Oh,
don't
let's
even
look at the
drink.
menu.
I don't drink. So that's part of
I
it too.
know, I know.
Like,
Well, that is a part of it, right?
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Okay, so my thing that annoys me, you're hearing this in real time,
I am.
but I can always
All
edit
of us.
it out, is that when you are annoyed with me, you ignore me.
Oh,
You do
yeah.
not deal
I
with
shut
me.
down. Yeah,
Yes.
I shut down.
Yes. So like if I'm doing something that is just totally pissing you off, the only way I know is that I don't hear from you.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, she's pissed, or oh, I was too much, or oh, I was too intense, or
Yeah.
oh. And my wish, of course, is that you could just deal with me instead of blow me off, because blowing me off is my personal trigger.
Right.
But this isn't our therapy session. But the people need to know it's not.
Apparently, we'll be having one afterwards.
People need to know it's not all love. It is all love, but you know what I mean.
We have a flaw or two.
We do, we do. Who is more likely? This is so obvious that it's almost silly to say out loud, but who is more likely to be fired from a job? I think I've been fired from at least 3 jobs.
Probably.
And I don't think you've ever been fired from a job.
I
in your
have
life.
not, but I have done the opposite, and I've stayed way too long at jobs I should have left.
This is just again like just
Yeah.
it's our personalities on display.
sure.
It's so
For
interesting.
sure.
And I get fired because I don't like to follow the rules.
Exactly. And
Which
I
is-
am such a rule follower
Right,
and people
right,
pleaser to the
right.
point of my own demise, as it were. So
Yes. Yeah. And that's why I work for myself. Now I
Yeah.
make my own rules. Okay. Who is the better cook? This is another no-brainer. That would be
yes, long term, I am the better cook, but your skills have leaps and bounds over the years.
I would get the most improved award.
Yes, for
But,
sure.
but you get the prize.
Yes.
You definitely get the prize. Who reads more books?
Okay, the caveat to that should be who reads. Yes, I read books a lot, but I don't read anything of quality or real substance. I am not. So you get the award for
Quality books.
quality books, and I get the award for quantity. If you want a good smutty romance or you know of any, shout them my way. I want to just disengage when
Yes.
I'm reading, and I read a lot. It's
And
it's my escape.
I'm always learning. I want to learn new things, new
Yeah.
perspectives.
I'm tired of learning. I'm done.
I know.
My
And
head
I'm
is full.
bored. I get bored out of my mind on fiction books because I'm just like, how's this going to affect me in any way? Like, I want to hear another person's perspective, or I want to think or get to know myself better, or get to know how to be better in relationships. But that again is my personality versus
And that
yours.
just sounds hard.
Right. Yes. And our very last question is, what is your favorite thing for us to do together?
Well, right now I would say breakfast.
I was gonna say eating.
Yeah, breakfast. Oh my God, breakfast at Shorba. That's our favorite. And it's cold, so we can't go because they have picnic tables outside. But breakfast at Shorba, walking the canal, going to Florida. Those are my
Yes.
It used to be going to
Yes.
Aldi, but now we do that separately.
Yes, but we may have to
Oh,
reinstitute that since I
thrift
don't see you
shopping.
much.
We haven't gone thrift shopping. We need
Oh
to go
God,
thrift
we
shopping.
do. We
I
both
need some
love
thrift
thrift
shopping.
shopping. It's
Yeah,
true.
those would be
Okay,
my favorites.
so to wrap this up, because we are really very close to the end, do you have any advice for the listeners on long lasting friendship? I have some thoughts that just kind of came to me as we
Of
were
course you
talking.
do, and I'm always challenged by all
Uh-huh.
these
Well, when
questions.
you think about 35 years, a 35-year relationship, we went through in this conversation, the
Mhm.
highs and lows, the good and the bad, how we've complimented each other, how we get on each other's nerves. How would you, in as a whole, say that this friendship has lasted in
Um,
general?
I think like most relationships, it's communication. Um, you are very big on communicating, as you just pointed out. One of your pet peeves is that when I am off, I shut down and don't communicate. Um, but again, this is our personalities. Other relationships will have to figure out what works for them. But you are a big communicator. You sort
Mm-hmm.
of have, I'll say, forced the issue at times, and I say that lovingly.
Mm-hmm.
But also given me personally a safe place to open up and learn how to be a better communicator. And I think that the truth is, over the years, we have to be honest with each other, and we have to laugh. I mean, if it was not, if it was not for having open communication and then really just being able to laugh at the absolute ridiculousness that is ourselves and our relationship
And life.
and life in general. I mean, just to have that opportunity and and have that person that you can do that with. And I mean, it didn't evolve from an immediate connection. As we said,
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were like, whoa, crazy, asking me to get in your car and drive to school with you, like it
Kidnapping you to
you know
temple,
yes.
kidnapping you for an
Kidnapping me.
education.
And then, oh God, the some of the funny car rides. Um,
I don't remember
but
any of that.
the truth is, the communication, being willing to grow together and
Yeah.
laugh, just laugh.
Yeah.
There's been so many times where we had to laugh, even while we were crying. you know.
Yes, I agree with all of that. The only other thing I would really add is being able to let things go too.
Oh,
Like
true.
that there are just times that you're not going to be vibing with your bestie,
Yeah.
and there are going to be times where you don't get me or I don't get you, and we just are like shrug our shoulders and move
Right.
on to the next thing,
Right.
and not stay and ruminate over any one thing that bothers us. Like, so if something's bothering me, like in the past, old Robin was much more somebody who would want to process every little thing that was coming up.
Hmm.
Newer Robin is able to let a lot more go. And not that
Hmm.
there's a lot to let go. I mean,
No.
there's not a lot of differences in the sense that we don't get along. But like if there is something that comes up that really bothers me, I really think hard about whether or not I need to talk with you about it.
Right.
Because most of the time, 9 out of 10 times, I just say to myself, I'm going to just let this go. If it comes up again,
Right.
okay, it sounds like we need to talk about it. And that's where the communication comes in. But a lot of things, and I think this is true about marriage, I think this
Hmm.
is true about all mother daughter, mother son, husband wife, wife husband husband, that there's just so much that comes up in the course of a day or a
Right.
week or a month or a friendship or a marriage or whatever, that we can't address every single thing that comes up. So I have gotten much better over the years at letting stuff go. And the way I'm able to do it with my personality is that I will say to myself, if something's really bothering me, I just say to myself, I'm going to let this go this time. And if it becomes a pattern, then I'm not going to avoid it. I am going to address it. And I would hope that you would do the same. You know, like if something was really bothering you to the point that you don't want to talk to me anymore, that's not going to happen. You're going to eventually talk to me.
Yep.
You know,
It
and I
might take
think
a little tooth pulling to draw it out, but
yeah,
it
but
will,
you'll be
it will
there.
happen at some
It
point in
will.
time.
And I really, I cannot thank you enough for doing this podcast. I know that this is not your thing. I know that, you know, having these conversations even offline is not your thing, online. And so I want to thank you publicly for being here and doing this for me.
I am happy to have been here. I'm grateful to be here. I love your podcast. You
Thank you.
know, it's just like you and I being on the canal, but I'm listening to you do it with somebody else. It's a lot of, you know, it's just a lot of fun for me to listen to and be a part of. And I'm here for you, even when it's
Thank you.
uncomfortable.
Thank you. And now you're off the hook.
Now I'm off the
You
hook.
can cross it off your list.
Oh,
Thank
for
you.
some reason, people thought this was so amazing.
Yes, we must have Jill
We
back.
must have them
I want to
back.
hear more about their relationship.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, I want to remind everybody that if there's a guest that you'd like to hear, please email me at robinsnestpodcast123@gmail.com or direct message me on Facebook or Instagram. The next time you hear from me, we will have a new president.
Yay!
So I'm very excited. This is being recorded on the day that Donald Trump was impeached for the second time.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. Anyway, so somehow we've managed not to talk about politics on this podcast. Maybe I'll have you back for that. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not your girl for that.
Yeah, you might be my girl for that. Anyway, thank you again, Jill. And I'll see everybody next month.
All righty.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.